Hello and welcome to Talking Tullahoma, a weekly podcast recapping week's news, talking to the newsmakers, and looking ahead to upcoming events. I'm Kelly Lepchinsky, and today I'll be talking to Jody Curtis about an upcoming exhibit at the Beechcraft Heritage Museum. After the interview, stay tuned to hear about the events that are on tap in the weeks ahead. But first, here's a look back at the week ending Friday, August 1st. Now, up first, I'm going to start this week with another note of congratulations. The Duck River Utility Commission took home first place in the People's Choice Best Tasting Water competition at this week's American Waterworks Association conference in Knoxville. Now, if you don't know why you should care about that, well, go take a sip from your tap, because DRUC supplies the water that TUA distributes to your home in Tullahoma. The water produced by DRUC consistently exceeds state and federal standards, which is good to know from a health standpoint. But there's a lot of technically good water out there, and not all of it tastes good. That's where DRUC stood out to the more than 2,000 professionals who attended that conference this week. Now, on Monday, the Board of Mayor and Aldermen met in regular session, and that meeting was completed in under an hour without any controversial agenda items. In his pre-agenda report, Mayor Lynn Seaborn announced 2 changes to citizen appointments. First, longtime public servant Bill Comer has stepped down from the Planning Commission, and the mayor has appointed one Adam Klein to fill that position, serving the urban growth boundary. Second, a vacancy is coming up on the TUA board as longtime public servant J.T. Northcutt completes his second term. Anyone interested in that position can submit a citizen participation form at City Hall. Now, another open position discussed on Monday is taking professional applications. The Tullahoma Area Economic Development Corporation is looking for its new director following the exit of Winston Brooks in June. Now, on to the agenda. The business of the meeting largely concerned second readings on those zoning corrections we talked about 2 weeks ago. Other items of note: the city approved allowing the fire department to transfer a hazardous materials truck to the Emergency Management Agency. They also approved a bid to replace the roof on Fire Hall Number 2, and that is something that was included in the year's budget. Additionally, the police department will surplus 58 confiscated weapons to the highest bidder in exchange for store credit when the department needs ammunition or optics. Now, that's the quick rundown, but you can watch the full meeting on YouTube. Just search for TUA LightTube. On Tuesday, 6 officers within the Tullahoma Police Department were promoted, and the city welcomed their family and friends to a ceremony at City Hall where they were invited to pin their loved one with their new rank. Congratulations to Lieutenant Brooke Arthur, Sergeants Zach Weaver and Jose Maldonado, and Corporals Travis Dixon, James Hendry, and Justin Blackburn. Congratulations also go out to Police Sergeant Jason Maloney, who has completed his training at the TBI State Academy. Now, around midweek, we heard that a consulting firm that was hired by Manchester Mayor Dennis Hunt to train new members of the Board of Zoning Appeals gave a bit of advice that might be useful in Tullahoma, too. You see, in some meetings, citizen comments can get out of hand, and one method that citizens use to keep talking beyond their allotted 2 or 3 minute time limit is to accept time from others who do not plan to speak. Well, according to County Planning Commission Chairman Steve Cunningham, the training crew from RCS Consulting said that is improper. Anyone who plans to speak at a public meeting should know what they are going to say and be concise. And if there is still some unused time in the audience, well, an audience member who hasn't spoken needs to use their own minutes. When your time is up, your time is up. It's a good reminder. And time is up for summer, that is, at least according to the school calendar. On Thursday, as I'm sure any parent of school-age children can tell you, students return to the classroom. And those who aren't parents were quickly reminded to adjust their schedules accordingly, as school zones went back into effect this week. 2 major road projects are still underway near 3 city schools. The road widening at Kings Lane and Country Club Drive was delayed during all of those wet weeks of summer, but it appears to be close to completion if given a few more dry days. That intersection serves both Robert E. Lee Elementary and East Middle School. Now, at the high school, it's the Wilson Avenue widening project that's causing congestion at Big Springs, which is that access road for the school parking lot. For regular traffic, that road is closed, but one-lane traffic will be allowed for students at the start and at the end of their school day. Now, in exciting back-to-school notes, there's students at Farah Elementary were welcomed back to a new building this year, just behind the old building. There's still a little construction being completed on the new cafeteria, but otherwise the frogs have a new pond and they are ready to go. Now, on Friday, soon after this podcast was released, the new Tullahoma location of Panera Bread should have welcomed its first visitors with prizes and giveaways throughout the day. And while it is the first location for Tullahoma, the company has a strong presence in other parts of Middle Tennessee, so you may already be familiar with the fast casual chain known for its bakery cafe concept. But if you're not, this question has been asked. The chain differs from the nearby McAllister's Deli in that Panera offers lighter fare like soups and salads and has a strong focus on fresh baked items like breads, pastries, and scones. Now, McAllister's also offers soups and salad, but it is known for signature sandwiches, generous portions, and its famous sweet tea. So while the menus might look pretty similar at first glance, you're really comparing a deli to a bakery, and only you can say which you will prefer on any given day. Now, if your plans for the weekend, this weekend of August 1st, include some time on the lake, you'll want to plan ahead, because 2 area boat ramps will be closed this weekend to allow TVA crews to do some construction work. Weather permitting, the Normandy boat ramp and the Timms Ford boat ramp will both be closed as crews install floating bulkheads that will make future maintenance easier for everyone. The new segmental bulkheads will allow TVA to do some spot maintenance and repairs without having to lower the entire reservoir. And now, taking us from the water to the air, we move on to our weekly interview. This week, I invited Jody Curtis, the Executive Vice President of the Beechcraft Heritage Museum, to tell us about a special event that will debut at this year's Beech Party Fly-In. The exhibit covers the history not only of the Beech aircraft, but also of the museum itself, and how it came to be the recognized home of a brand that was founded in Wichita, Kansas.
We've been wanting to tell the story, and we're not just a aircraft museum, we're an American aviation history museum. That history begins in Pulaski, Tennessee in 1891 with the birth of Walter Beech. So it's Tennessee history, American aviation history. It's actually going to be between our original log cabin, because we started in a 2-room log cabin in 1973, and the first hangar that we ever built, the Walter Beech hangar. And the exhibit will be 6 different panels. Each panel will be the 6 different sections of our American aviation history, beginning with Travel Air Company. Walter Beech, Clyde Cessna, Lloyd Stearman started one of the first aircraft manufacturing companies in the 1920s in Wichita, Kansas. We have serial number 1 Travel Air.
Yeah.
One of the one of the first aircraft production companies in our country. So we start with that history where Mr. Beech met Olive Ann Beech, which she was Olive Ann Miller at the time, and we have one original photo on that page of Miss Miller before she became O.A. Beech, Olive Ann Beech. Then the second panel, these are all going to be probably about 7 foot high, and they will have 3 distinctive photos with a very descriptive, not too in-depth, because we want anybody to walk into our museum and learn their own aviation history in our country.
Yeah.
So I know way too much, so you don't want to ask me or Charles or Sherry any questions. We want a visitor to come into the museum and learn their own aviation history.
Nice.
The second panel will be the Beech Aircraft Corporation, which Mr. and Mrs. Walter Beech founded in 1932, hence our name, Beechcraft Heritage Museum, and it'll tell the history of Beech Aircraft Corporation. And one of the unique features that most people don't know is Walter Beech became terminally ill in 1940. He died in 1950. Mrs. Beech ran Beech Aircraft Corporation for 40-plus years, and she's actually the first woman in our country to run a Fortune 500 company.
Wow.
Nobody
Wow.
knows that.
Yeah.
And
I knew
that's
she'd run the company because I've talked to you guys before, but
right.
I didn't even
She is
realize that.
and she's considered the first lady of aviation, but she's also the first woman in our country to run a Fortune 500 company, and she negotiated all the military contracts, all the bank contracts, loan contracts, and she basically built Beech Aircraft Corporation to what it is today. She left in 1987, and it's still being produced in Wichita under Textron Aviation. So that's the second panel.
Okay.
The third panel was kind of the inspiration of doing all of this. So our oldest exhibit was the Louise Thaden exhibit. Nobody knows who Louise Thaden is, of
Unless
course.
they've been to the Beechcraft.
Exactly. So hers will be that she was the first woman to win the 1929 Women's Air Derby race. It was the first race, transcontinental race they ever had for women. And yes, Amelia Earhart was in it. And no, she did not win first place. Louise Thaden did. So we're actually bringing her exhibit out with her panel that will
Nice.
have her pilot certificate signed by Orville Wright, and bring out her flight suit and all of her memorabilia of her accomplishments. And also in that panel, it'll describe that 1936 was the first year that the very famous Bendix race allowed women to race, and had a consolation prize for whatever woman completed the race. And not only did Louise Thaden and Blanche Noyes win first place, they got the consolation prize too.
Nice.
So it'll just kind of describe that. And we got a really neat photograph of the women in the 1929 that includes Marvel Crossan and Amelia Earhart and Louise Thaden and Pancho Barnes, all these, adventurous of the time.
Yeah.
And Louise took first in all these races, and everybody thinks just Amelia Earhart was the only person
Well, you
that
kind of
was.
think about that. I mean, you're talking transcontinental, and Orville Wright is the one who signed her pilot's license.
Yes.
I mean, that's not a long span of time to go to a long span of flying.
Right. And nobody knows this history, and it's right here in Tullahoma.
Yeah.
Now, Louise is from Bentonville, Arkansas, but when we started the museum in 1973, she inspired the Staggerwing enthusiasts to preserve the Staggerwing, because she won that 1936 race in a Staggerwing, and Walter Beech thought Louise and Mrs. Beech were nutso for entering a stock Staggerwing airplane in with Jimmy Doolittle and his racing plane that could beat anybody, and she won.
Yeah.
So amazing. So that's panel number 3.
Okay.
Panel number 4 is Staggerwing Museum Foundation, who we were in 1973, our roots, why the museum's in Tullahoma, Tennessee, and it just kind of depicts that history. Panel number 5 is still in production today. Beechcraft is still being manufactured by Textron Aviation, so it has the 4 different aircraft that Textron is making today, and all the descriptions saying, our history is still going.
Yeah.
And then the 6th and final panel is Beechcraft Heritage Museum. Why do we go from the Staggerwing Museum Foundation to the Beechcraft Heritage Museum? And that just tells the rest of the story. So somebody can literally come in and learn from 1920s to present time.
I love it. I love it. Now, I'm going to say, because we're in a new format now, we've got this podcast that is going out not just to our television subscribers, but to anyone who wants to listen. There may be people from Tullahoma who remember the Staggerwing Museum, but don't even know this evolution. So can you tell us a little bit about what took the Staggerwing Museum to being the Beechcraft Heritage Museum?
That's such a beautiful story. I get goosebumps. I've been with them way too long, Kelly. Well, the Staggerwing is a type aircraft. It's the first aircraft that Beech manufactured. It was a beautiful Ferrari of airplanes made of wood and cloth. There were 785 of them made. There's less than 100 flying today. Well, in the mid-1990s, the Staggerwing Museum Foundation directors and members were like, now what? There's much more that are less that are airworthy. There's fewer flying. How are we going to keep this going? Well, the next generation of Beechcraft models was the Twin Beech 18. the Twin Beech 18 Society came and asked the Staggerwing Museum Foundation, hey, y'all are doing such a good job preserving the history of one model of the Beech. How about we join in? And our purists said no. Our visionaries said yes. And now we have every model, not every model, but, several dozen different models of Beechcraft. And interestingly enough, Textron Aviation, they're a big international corporation. If you called up and said, hey, I need some information on the history of Beechcraft, they would say the home of Beechcraft is in Tullahoma, Tennessee.
That is incredible.
That's what Textron Aviation says about your museum here in Tullahoma.
And you guys have grown so much since then. You've done so much to build a foundation and get to a certain endowment level and build new hangars. If somebody who'd last seen it as the Parish Staggerwing Museum came today and saw what Beechcraft Heritage Museum looks like, they'd be pretty surprised by that campus.
I think they would be wowed. So we've had a management team in place for about 10 years with Charles Parrish and Sherry and myself. And we have wonderful volunteers like Kirby Toddy and Les Marsh. When we came, we had a nice museum. We have since expanded to 78,000 square feet. We have 38 aircraft. We've made them more of an exhibit within an exhibit. We're not just a bunch of aircraft hanging out in hangars. Each aircraft has a story. We're working on, for instance, we have an AT-11 that Les Marsh and Kirby have been working on, and you're back in World War II. You feel like you're in bombardier training. It's absolutely incredible. We have original movie clips of training now where you push the red button and you learn all about these trainers here in the United States during the World War II effort. So we're working really hard on making exhibits within exhibits so people can have more of a learning experience versus just looking at an airplane.
And I think every time I've been there, the one that always grabs people's eyes that I notice, it may not be the one, you're there every day, but the one that I always notice people stopping to look at is the wood frame, where you see how thin the fabric actually is over the frame of the plane. That is a fascinating exhibit.
It's one of my favorites. Mrs. Beech actually had that sent from Wichita to Tullahoma. I want to remind you, Kelly, Mrs. Beech wasn't fond of the idea of this little Staggerwing Museum Foundation in the 1970s. But she became very engaged. Her family is still engaged. Her granddaughter is having a reprint of the Barnstormer and the Lady, and will be doing book signings of the new digitized, updated Barnstormer and the Lady because it went out of print.
Yeah.
And her mom's like, I'm done. She's like, well, I'm not. So anyway, that's one of Mrs. Beech's special, but a lot of people that are restoring Staggerwings will come to Tullahoma just to see that particular exhibit, to see how the ribs are of that wooden aircraft and how delicate. It's really a simple design.
It really is. I mean, that's what's so
not.
surprising about it. That's what draws you to it. You look at that and then you see one of those planes and go, that's just painted and I don't know what the word is to make the fabric stiff, but it's like, that's amazing that goes up in the air and has lasted 100 years.
Well, and another unique thing is we just finished Oshkosh, in Wisconsin, the largest, fly-in in the world, and Sun and Fun in Florida. Well, when we have our beach party, we have more Staggerwings fly in for our event here in Tullahoma than they do in Oshkosh or in Florida.
Wow.
That's special. That says something about Tullahoma.
And even though you have more Staggerwings, you also have some really incredibly unique planes, some that are one of only one or two in the country that still manage. The Starship is exactly what I was thinking of.
The Starship, yes. I mean, there's only 4 flying in the world. Our member has 2. One year he brought 2. 2019, he brought 2 Starships, which is absolutely. And the Starship does not go to Sun or Oshkosh. It only comes to our fly-in. And this year, Textron Aviation is bringing their brand new King Air 360, which is like, I get goosebumps. I'm like,
I didn't know they were still using the nameplate.
Yes.
Wow.
They're actually still producing a Bonanza, a Baron, a new model called a Denali, and then 2 different types of King Air.
Wow.
And they're bringing 3 aircraft to Beach Party.
Nice.
to exhibit.
So, since we mentioned Beach Party several times, just in case anybody's listening that hasn't heard of that before, or isn't aware, I can't imagine if you live here you weren't aware, but we don't know who's listening. So, Beach Party every year in October. Tell us a little bit about that event and how long you've been doing it.
We've been actually the first fly-in in 1973 with the Staggerwing Club. So that fly-in, which has been, it used to be the Staggerwing Museum Foundation Convention, very formal name. In the year 2001, they changed it to the Beech Party, and BEECH
Right.
party. Last year we had over 170 aircraft from all across the country and over 900 visitors. It's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, October 9, 10, and 11. The fee to get in for a Tullahoma resident that's not a pilot or a member of the museum, it's $55 a day, which is really cheap if you consider what it would cost to go to Oshkosh or to go to any of these fly-ins and see these rare aircraft. You're never going to see a Starship anywhere else but at Beech Party. You're never going to see that many Staggerwings. And people don't just fly their planes and park. They do a lot of formation over Thames Ford Lake and Normandy Lake. We have some wonderful seminars. This year our theme is Generations of Flight. So we have several seminars of second, third, and even fourth generation pilots. And aviation seems to be a shrinking community versus a larger community,
Really?
and we need more pilots.
That really surprises me because, I mean, who doesn't want to fly?
Point taken. I
Now,
have
that
to
said,
agree with you.
I haven't gone through that process. I'm not a pilot, but
And I'm not either.
I know a
but
couple, and I know, in fact, I know several, and it would not have occurred to me that was a shrinking.
It is. They can't hire enough pilots now in
Wow.
the commercial pilot industry. It's
Huh.
and I don't really know, except maybe it's just lack of communication. One thing that is a little bit disappointing is 20 years ago, when we were half the size and had probably 70% less than we have, we used to have school groups come through. We don't have school groups come through anymore.
That seems so odd to me. Well, we have to fix that. Let's
I
get
know,
them
we
out
we
there.
have so much to teach about, like I said, Tullahoma aviation history, Tennessee aviation history, and American aviation history, right here in everybody's backyard. It's right here, and our admission is very reasonable.
And so, again, because I honestly believe there are some people who just never traveled that road. And so if they're not going to Chamber of Commerce events or they haven't seen you out and about, there are some people, even here in town, who maybe once a year go, what are all these planes over my head, don't know about the Beech Party, and may not even realize that you're here and what a big asset you are to this community. So let's tell people where you are and get them down that road and finding you.
Okay, we are at 570 Old Shelbyville Highway. We're on the other side of the airport, so don't go to the airport. You got to come on around Wilson Avenue and come to Old Shelbyville Highway. We are open Tuesday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Our admission is $16 for adults and $14 for children and children 18 to 11 and seniors 65 and over, and then all children 11 and under are free. And our mission is to perpetuate aviation education, and you don't have to love planes to come learn your own history right here in Tullahoma.
Yeah. And I'm just going to throw in this because it occurred to me while you were speaking about aviation and history. Beechcraft has even helped to sponsor other pieces of history coming into town. I know a couple of years ago, I flew the Ford.
Yes,
And
the EAA Trimotor. Well, that was fun,
that was
wasn't it?
an amazing ride. That was spectacular to me in that, given its age, I had not expected such a smooth flight. Now, I haven't been up in one of the Staggerwings, one of the things that I've seen on the ground, but this one, when I got to actually go up, Beechcraft helped sponsor that group coming to town.
Right.
And that was a really, really interesting event to get to do.
And that's one thing we've really tried to forge those aviation relationships with EAA. That's who brought the Trimotor here. And with AOPA, that was a partnership with the Beechcraft Heritage Museum to get them here twice within a 5-year period of time. We were one of the first cities in the nation to ever host two AOPA events in a 5-year period of time. So it's critical to our team to forge and maintain those relationships.
And those are good for the city because that's tourism. They may
Yes.
fly in, but they've got to go out. They've got to sleep somewhere, eat somewhere, visit, go to one of the distilleries, so it's all good stuff happening
And
here.
we're all about the tourism. I don't know if you've opened up your Tennessee vacation guide.
What are you, number 23, I think, am I right?
We're
I
not
was
very proud of
amazed.
that.
No, not at all, but it's a magazine saying the attractions across the state for anyone who maybe hasn't seen this. And right there at number 23 was Beechcraft Heritage Museum.
In Tullahoma. I mean,
Yeah.
that's Memphis to Bristol.
Yeah.
That's quite a compliment to, I think, Tullahoma and Coffee County, that number 23 was the Beechcraft Heritage Museum.
Absolutely.
And
So
again,
that
that's
tells you.
relationships. You know, we've worked hard with the Tullahoma tourism and had that relationship with Mark Azell and the state of Tennessee, and also Ryan French does a wonderful job with South Central Tennessee Tourism, SCTTA. He's helped put us a little bit on the After Jack program, what to do after you visit Jack
okay.
Daniels.
Okay.
You know, there's a whole nother
Nice.
promotion. You have tens of thousands of people that go to Lynchburg, Tennessee and leave.
Yeah.
Guess what?
Just down the road.
Come eat at the Whiskey Trail or the Sun Drop or go by T. Michelle or, enjoy
Yeah.
what we have just 10 miles east of Lynchburg.
Absolutely.
So we have a
Yeah.
lot to market. We just got to get the
And the
word
Whiskey
out there.
Trail even brings them into town. They can get to George Dickel and keep going from there.
Yes,
So,
yes.
good stuff.
So it's so rewarding.
So now we mentioned all your exhibits coming up. That's ribbon cutting is happening during Beech Party.
Yes.
Right. So if anybody wants to be there for the ribbon cutting, they can buy their ticket to the
Yes.
Beech Party. But if they're not going to make it out, not going to compete with the Beech Party, they're not that big into aviation enthusiasts, but they want to see the museum, they want to see the progress, they can go get your under $20 ticket just
Yeah.
to visit the museum after Beech Party, but
Yes.
not before. The ribbon cutting is at Beech Party.
The ribbon cutting is actually Friday, October 10th at 11:30, and the granddaughter of the Beeches will have scissors in hand to cut
Oh,
that
man,
history.
now you've got me tearing
I
up
know.
a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. And founder John Parrish Sr. will be there. We'll have some really people that have forged this to be a reality. It's an unbelievable story.
Well, there
And
you
it's
go.
time for everybody to know what that story is and be proud of it.
Now, for our listeners who don't follow aviation that closely, the annual AOPA fly-in is known as one of the finest events on the calendar for aircraft owners and pilots. And that's what those letters stand for, Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. Jody also mentioned the EAA, that's the Experimental Aircraft Association, which hosts an annual week-long aviation celebration in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Now, in that interview, you also heard Jody mention the book, The Barnstormer and the Lady. The name refers to the aviation legends she was talking about, Walter and Olive Ann Beech. The book is a corporate history that was commissioned by the family, and it was written by a Wall Street Journal reporter, but despite his excellence in the field, Dennis Farney was not an aviation writer, so some readers have spotted issues with minor technical details. Overall, though, it is a highly rated story of a couple whose careers spanned almost the entire history of American aviation. Now, you can get the book right now as a digital copy on Amazon. It sells for $15 and it's 240 pages long. Now, $15 sounds pretty good because a used hard copy sells for closer to $70. There is a reason for the price difference beyond the cost of the paper. The book includes many photographs, which don't always translate well to ebooks. You may have to work a little bit more to tell the narrative apart from the captions. For $15, though, you can read the story and decide whether you want to invest in a used edition. And that, effectively, is my book chat for today. I schedule reviewers on the first through fourth Wednesdays of the month, so there's no one lined up on a fifth Wednesday. And that means that if you'd be interested in reviewing a book for the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. I'd particularly like to get a male perspective on books. Give me a call at 571-7186. The next 5 Wednesday month is in October. And now, here's a look at what's happening. It's that time of year again, the annual fundraiser for South Jackson Performing Arts Center. Peggy Burton's South Jackson Goes Country. The 46th annual variety show will be filled with music, comedy, and onstage ads for local businesses. The show runs 2 nights, Friday and Saturday, the 8th and 9th, plus one 2 o'clock matinee on Sunday. Adult tickets start at $20, and you can get them online at southjackson.org. And if all has gone according to plan, you might even be able to take a look at the new $100,000 facelift to what was formerly known as the Mitchell Museum. The country show was the target date for a soft opening of the new space, which will now be called the Tullahoma Museum of History and Culture. But don't worry, the original namesake will still be honored with the Mitchell Room. Auditions are right around the corner for the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat at the Manchester Arts Center. The Millennium Repertory Company will hold auditions at 2 o'clock on Saturday the 9th and at 6 o'clock on Monday the 11th. The show will be performed in November. You can read more about the auditions and pre-register online at millenniumrep.org. A 3/5 scale replica of the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C. is making its way to the Winchester City Park later this month. The traveling memorial will be escorted from the Military Museum in Mont Eagle on the 14th, and it will be installed at the Citizen Pavilion on Philip Fuller Highway through the 18th. Faith Lutheran Church on Bragg Circle is getting ready for a 2-day rummage sale on the weekend of the 15th. The sale will start at 7 a.m. both days, but it's open until 3 on Friday and will close an hour earlier on Saturday. All the money raised will go toward missions. Now, we have told you about a lot of golf tournaments lately, from this weekend's Ann Noa's Memorial to the new Police and Fire tournament that's set for the 22nd. And if you missed that info last week, find out more on the Chamber website at tullahoma.org. This week, we've got another one for you. The Downtown Lions 36th annual Richard Britton Golf Tournament is set for the 15th at Lakewood Golf and Country Club. The 4-person scramble will kick off with a shotgun start at 9, following a 7:30 registration. The cost is $540 per team, and 4 mulligans per team are included. This event also features a putting contest, door prizes, and a $10,000 hole-in-one contest. Call co-chair Joey Teal at 273-0782 for more information. And last week I told you about early registration for some fall races, but there's another one coming in September, and you don't have to race to get the discounted price. Motlow State Community College will host its 2nd annual Bucks Fall 5K on September 13th, and the registration price is $35 for the entire month of August. Pre-registration and packet pickup will be on September 12th, and the race begins at 8 a.m. the next morning. You don't want to look for this race on race sign-up. Instead, look for bidpal.net/Bucks Fall 5K. That's bidpal.net. And that's what's happening. Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Talking Tullahoma. If you've got a story or an event that you'd like to share on the podcast, call and leave me a message at 571-7186 or email news@lighttube.net. I'll be back soon with more of what makes Tullahoma tick. Until then, you can listen to Talking Tullahoma on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. New episodes drop on Thursdays. Please like and share. For the video version, follow us on YouTube. Just search for TUA LightTube. I'm Kelly Lepchinsky. Catch you next week.